Morning, everybody. Welcome to the London Report for week ending December 13th. We have like 2 weeks left in the year. Crazy. It's almost over. Don't know about you. Haven't done any Christmas shopping yet. They have total loss for what I'm going to do this year, but sure, I'll think of something amazing in the next week. We'll see. And let's get right to it. In terms of news this week, I mean, it felt pretty light, but the market did kind of move a lot this week, and not in the way that we had hoped. We'll start with mortgage applications, which I usually start with. Purchases down 4%, and refinances up 27%. But do bear in mind that it's a comparison to week over week from a holiday weekend, which was really short. So, not surprising that number might be somewhat large and maybe a bit skewed. Initial jobless claims for this week. Initial jobless claims, those filing for the first time, up 17,000. That's a pretty large increase, and continuing up 15,000. So we'll see how the jobs report continues to play out as we move into the new year and that seasonal hiring goes away. I want to get into a few slides for you. We'll start with home equity per CoreLogic, showing right now there are a total of 136 million households. Of those, 45 million rent, and then 91 million own their home. If you take an average of that alone, that means the average person who owns a home has 407,000 in equity in their home based on what the market has done, the housing market has done over the past several years and decades. Those, of course, if you rent, you have zero equity. There's no ability to pull out cash on something that you own, and of course, leave something behind to your children in the future. If you own your home free and clear, that actually averages out to 571,000 in equity. Those with mortgages average about 311,000. And then you can see that there are a few homes that are upside down, but this is minuscule compared to the number of homes that are out there. Talking 1 million homes underwater at this point. I know that million sounds like a lot, but really not relative to the number of homes that are owned. This week, we also got consumer price index report inflation for the feds to take a look at and make some determinations on what they want to do moving forward with short-term interest rates. This will certainly impact that decision. This being for the month of November, showing the headline number at 0.3% month over month, and that the core number also at 0.3%. Year over year, we are now at 2.7% on the headline number, and the core numbers at 3.3%, excuse me. Of the core numbers, shelter, of course, always makes up the most. It impacts those numbers the most. And you can see that lodging away from home, still one of the bigger components impacting that number at 3.16. This is just me throwing this out there. I'm curious to see, now that the Eras Tour is over, how that lodging away changes over the next several months, because it is well known and documented that many people travel for her concerts. And of course, that requires, for the most part, lodging away, staying at hotels. So I'll be curious to see how this plays out in the next couple of months. Also within that component, you can see food at basically 0.4% month over month, at 2.4% year over year. Used cars almost at 2%, and motor vehicle insurance at 0.1%, slowing just a little bit, but everybody knows it's not cheap. So just keeping that in mind. So that's what we got for CPI. We also did get PPI this week. That's wholesale inflation, also showing kind of hit expectations. Nothing surprising in those numbers. CoreLogic did release their mortgage performance for the month of, I think it was September, showing that those people 30 days late were at 3%. Those at 90 days late were only at 0.9%, so barely 1%. And foreclosure is still at a very modest 0.3%. So fortunately for people still very good about making their mortgage payments. It is the biggest impact on your FICO score. So good to see people doing that. Despite consumers continuing to spend money and putting it on credit, they are getting their mortgages paid. So happy to see that. Now, next week, we are going to have retail sales. The feds do meet. They will decide what they're going to do with short-term interest rates. Will there be another cut? Expectations, there'll be a quarter. I'm not convinced myself because retail sales have been really strong, and they could see that they feel inflation's doing well, so they don't need to be as aggressive, but we'll see what happens next week. And then we also get PCE, personal consumption expenditures for inflation. We'll take a look at the charts right now. This is the 3-year Treasury, or excuse me, the 6% or 5.5% MBS. And for this one, this is what we want to see. We want to see it actually going up in the green. So this week has not been all that good for mortgage interest rates. We had made some ground up and we've lost quite a bit of it. Still in that 7% range, just plus or minus, a quarter or 0.5%, depending upon what your situation looks like. Remember, rates are not fixed. It is contingent on several factors: what your FICO score is, what your loan amount is, how much you're putting down. A lot of things impact what the interest rate offered is, but we did lose some ground this week, unfortunately. That's all I got for you this week. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I do appreciate when you like my videos. I appreciate you watching. I hope you have a great weekend. Get lots of Christmas shopping done. I'm hoping I might get a little bit done. We'll see. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.